having us in first seat.
Take your time, guys. Catherine won't be here till 2:30.
What's that?
Take your time. Catherine won't be here till 2:30.
Oh, perfect. I can ramble for 24 minutes. This is great.
We just talk about our holiday plans.
Yeah.
Ice cream cone, I love it.
It's back.
Yeah.
I did update one line.
Is this a downwind hazard assessment or?
What's that?
Downwind.
Down
trees.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually plume modeling. Ready?
Take it away.
Okay, yeah, so again, I'm Robert, Lieutenant with Portland Fire. I currently serve as our Emergency Management Officer here with the Fire and EMS Work Group and Chief Bregman. We're, obviously, the Fire and EMS Work Group is incredibly aware of the threat of wildfire to all of our communities. We've sent our crews, members of the Oregon Fire Service, have been on some of the largest incidents, not only in the state of Oregon, but also across the country. Just as a frame of reference, this year when the Klondike fire burned into the Chetco scar, that's actually the largest burn scar in America right now. It's 366,000 acres in southern Oregon, southwest Oregon. So we were also at the Camp Fire, and that burned 154,000 acres, and 85 people passed away in that one. Naturally, we were also at Eagle Creek, where the fire was burning at our back door. So the reality of climate change, the way that the fuels have been taken care of, the way the forests have been managed, the way that we've seen this sort of develop over time, fires aren't trending to get better. We're still trending to be bad. Unfortunately, when we're here in the urban interface, there's a lot of different factors that go into how we can address those fires, how we can attack those fires, and how we can prepare for them. As the Fire and EMS Work Group comes together, we're in the middle of a 4-phase process to better understand how can we as a region be prepared for massive wildfire. We're not talking about brush fires that kind of pop up and an agency can take care of that. We're talking the larger fires that burn independent of geopolitical lines. When the fire starts moving from Washington County and into Clackamas, how are we prepared to handle that? Because there's a lot of different factors that would actually affect how we would be able to do that. From a security perspective, fire is still seen as a tool, both from homegrown violent extremists and also from international terror. They're publishing documentation on how to use fire to create strain on communities. So if you intentionally light a fire, not only do you threaten the populace, but you also strain all the responders in that area. So we did create we call it the ice cream cone. This is what we started last year. And this really just is a quick visual as to the 4 layers of our project that we're working on. The first one is the hazard and risk assessment, and that was funded with UASC 19 funds. And we're going to get started on that. We're really excited. That will help us to identify the most threatened areas of each county. We can actually quantify that risk through understanding the values at risk and using some tools to really let us know where are areas that we're most threatened. This year we're proposing for a gap analysis. So $125,000, this will help us to look at the plans and see where are we missing the mark to address the issues in our communities. Where do we need to bolster the policies? Where do we need to get some of those interagency agreements in place to be able to handle that? We also want to look at equipment and access. Is there any areas that we can't get to with the equipment that we have? And do we need to start developing some plans to get that equipment into the region? And then finally, we want to look at training, both tactical training and also incident management-based training. The biggest thing with all of this is understanding that wildfire is not just a fire problem. It's a whole community problem. So we've been reaching out to various groups. We talked with REMTech, we talked with law enforcement, given the experiences of the Camp Fire and the evacuation. So we're working with law enforcement work group. Beth pointed out to us that there's also some public health concerns, wildfire smoke. I just mentioned to Jack we need to have a quick conversation. And then also with the animal MAC, because of both domestic and livestock that would need to be moved. So we're still continuing to grow and understand this large group that we're going to be working with. I would imagine I can actually go around and hit everybody in the room and say, yeah, you have a tie into this as well. So it's a pretty big project, but we wanted to use this gap analysis to set us up for next year and the years beyond, where we can start to look at our incident management strategies and then actually look at our suppression strategies so that we understand. If you look at all these fires, and I hit on a couple of the big ones, the Camp Fire, Eagle Creek, there's hundreds of examples where fire has affected our communities. really the underlying theme with a lot of them, when you read the after action, is we wish we did more ahead of time to create the collaboration and to really build those plans and then exercise those plans. At the campfire, they actually had evacuation zones. They just didn't have a plan for, we have no communications because the fire knocked out all their comms. So some of those resilient plans, some of those redundant plans. So we want to make sure that we're ready for that. A big piece of this is the equity lens that we want to apply to it. We do have a large number of our vulnerable populations living in the wildland urban interface. So we want to work to understand how can we make it more safe for them, or how can we work with them from a response perspective. So there's a lot of different variables in there that we're going to have to work through with the joint office and some of our other partners. So this is kind of what we're looking at. I gave myself a little bit extra time, so what questions do we have?
This is phase 2 of a 4-phase project.
4-phase project, yep. Wildfires are bad. I think we'll just end on that note. So, okay, well then I will yield the rest of my time. Steve, you want to add?